Once home to a self-made millionaire, a town that changed hands 14 times during the Civil War, and the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln's mother. I'm Wayne Worth, and you're watching On the Road in West Virginia, our 55 counties, Mineral County. Unlike every other West Virginia county, which has either been named after some noble person, river, or place, Mineral County was named after its vast mineral resources. However, before the resources were even discovered, this was a region plagued with constant turmoil between the white settlers and Native Americans. Now, of course, this was during the height of the French and Indian War, and bloodshed was a pretty common occurrence, especially along Patterson Creek, where settlers were getting picked off left and right. It even got to the point where Colonel George Washington ordered the construction of two forts along Patterson Creek, which were Fort Coke at Headsville and the more notable Fort Ashby, which still stands today. And if that wasn't enough, Fort Ohio, which was mainly a fortified storehouse for the early settlers, was also built in 1750 in what is today the town of Ridgely. As tensions settled down between the white settlers and the natives, more people would explore and settle what was then Western Virginia, and they would use this road behind me as a vital route. Well, subtract about 185 years or more and subtract the pavement, and you have the old wagon road, or the technical term, the old Northwestern Turnpike. What is today US 50 and a windy road that many of us take for granted was a significant route during the 1830s, as it took travelers directly from Winchester, Virginia to Parkersburg, West Virginia. People used the old wagon road not only to get themselves from point A to point B, but also to get their products and livestock to market. Along the route was an inn called Traveler's Rest, or the Old Stone House, which was built in 1810 and expanded on in 1827 in anticipation of the building of the Northwestern Turnpike. Now, Traveler's Rest was a 19th century version of your major hotel chain along a major interstate highway, though parking lots back then consisted of pastures to hold cattle and posts to tie horses to. Now, the Civil War would once again bring more hostility to Mineral County, as the B&O Railroad would be a significant asset to the Union cause and a significant target to the Confederacy. Having the B&O Railroad run through town in the Northwestern Turnpike a few miles south, Kaiser, which was then called New Creek, became a very strategic place during the Civil War. In 1861, up on the hill where Potomac State College stands today, stood Fort Fuller, where initially Union forces would be able to see Confederate forces coming from miles away. Now, that didn't stop some of these Confederate raiding parties from overtaking the town, as Kaiser would play musical chairs, Civil War style, throughout the war. And by the end of the war, Kaiser would change hands 14 times. As for Mineral County, its people decided that they wanted to separate from the pro-Confederate Hampshire County, and in 1866, what was then Western Hampshire County became pro-Union Mineral County. Post-Civil War, Mineral County would see some significant changes economically, as a self-made millionaire named Henry Gassaway Davis would purchase the famous Big Vein. The Big Vein coal seam in Elk Garden would transform the county both industrially and culturally. This high-quality coal didn't only bring many immigrants from several European countries into Mineral County for work, but a chunk of the Big Vein coal was even on display at the St. Louis World's Fair in 1904. In just 42 years, around 2,000 miners were employed in Elk Garden, and over 300 acres of coal was mined. Factor in the B&O Railroad's presence in the county, towns like Piedmont were busting through the seams with prosperity, and men like Henry Gassaway Davis became millionaires overnight. As for the story of Henry Gassaway Davis, who by the way lived in Piedmont for some time, started off as a farmhand and then in 1842 got a job as a brakeman for the B&O Railroad. From there, he invested his savings and his wife's inheritance in undeveloped forest lands, which would one day make him a fortune. He also built the West Virginia Central and Pittsburgh Railway, which we'll talk more about in Randolph County's segment. Oh, and I almost forgot that he was West Virginia's first Democratic U.S. Senator from 1871 to 1883 and a Democratic nominee for Vice President in 1904. In the end, though, one would ask, how can a man whose education didn't exceed beyond elementary school become one of the most influential figures in 19th century American politics and industry? Well, if old Henry were alive today, he would probably respond by saying, hard work and good timing. Now, one story that many may not know about is the heroic story of the Wearith 11 and the story of Piedmont's own James Aubrey Stewart. In short, Aubrey Stewart was born, raised, worked, and made a fairly comfortable life for himself here in Piedmont, West Virginia. Now, Aubrey never married or fathered any children, but was indeed a family man who had a deep appreciation and love for his parents. In 1942, at the age of 36, he was inducted into the Army where he would serve in Europe during World War II. During the Battle of the Bulge, the Germans outnumbered the Allies 10-1, and during a firefight, Aubrey and 10 other men were separated from their unit. They would walk to the village of Wereth, Belgium, where the Langer family, sympathizers to the Allied forces, would take them in from the cold and provide them a hot meal. Now, it is said that a neighbor notified the SS, and when they arrived at the Langers' home, the 11 men surrendered peacefully. Shortly after their surrender, they were marched down to a nearby field, where they were then murdered. For their heroism, Aubrey and the 10 other men not only received the Purple Heart, Bronze Star, and Victory Medal, but a movie titled Wereth 11 was made to preserve the memory of these 11 soldiers who paid the ultimate price for our freedom. The mid to late 1900s would see significant changes in Mineral County's economy with the decline in coal production. However, more diversified industries would thrive as the county would move towards the 21st century. The paper industry, which has been a viable industry since the late 1880s, still provides many jobs to the county. Just up the river in Rocket Center, West Virginia, which by the way is a community with 0 residents, is the Allegheny Ballistics Laboratory, which manufactures ammunition products for the military. And we can't forget about the recreational opportunities that Jennings-Randolph Lake provides. Initially built in 1981, the lake served as a pollution trap for acid drainage from abandoned coal mines to improve water quality for aquatic life and recreation along the North Branch of the Potomac. Also on the grounds of Jennings-Randolph Lake is a one-of-a-kind rock with a pattern that resembles a perfect waffle. Now, over the years, I bet many have asked the question, how can nature make a perfect waffle on a 300-million-year-old chunk of sandstone better than what my granny could cook on a waffle iron? Well, some people had theories that aliens from another planet may have paid Mineral County a visit and left us some pretty cool art. However, the Corps of Engineers geologists have said that as rare as this phenomenon may be, that the waffle pattern in the rock is definitely a natural geologic formation. And there is no better place for our journey through Mineral County to end than right here at the very place where Nancy Hanks' journey began. And though she only lived to be 34 years old, she gave the world one of the most noble presidents in our country's history and the very man who gave birth to West Virginia, Abraham Lincoln. I'm Wayne Worth, and until next time, always remember what we value and hold important to our lives today came from events that happened yesterday, and it's when we begin to understand the events of yesterday that we fully embrace today, which makes tomorrow become less of a mystery. The mid to late 1900s would see significant changes in Mineral County's economy with the decline in coal production.